disruption of key services, and the protection and participation of marginalized population.
A lot of the cells in some of these prisons locations are secret.
Okay, so there is no review, quote unquote, specifically to HDS as we're underway right now as it relates to what happened over the weekend.
There is no specific review related to what happened over the weekend. That said, we are always reviewing our sanctions posture with entities based on their actions. So when entities take different actions, of course there can be a change in our sanctions posture, but we have nothing new to announce today.
You say now that will influence them to do the kind of things you want them to do.
The status of Russian military bases in Syria. Does the U.S. have any information about whether the current authorities in Syria will allow those to continue? And does the U.S. actually have a stance? Is the U.S. comfortable with those remaining there?
We don't have any information about the status of those bases and what the incoming Syrian regime may or may not do with respect to them.
HTS able to control whole Syria in 7 days without any...
Number one, I think it's important to put in context what happened that led up to this event. First of all, the Syrian army abandoned its positions in the area around the negotiated Israeli-Syrian buffer zone, which potentially creates a vacuum that could have been filled by terrorist organizations that would threaten the state of Israel and would threaten civilians inside Israel. Every country has the right to take action against terrorist organizations, and every country, I think, would be worried about a possible vacuum that could be filled by terrorist organizations on its border, especially in volatile times, as we obviously are in right now in Syria. The second thing that is important is that Israel has said that these actions are temporary to defend its borders. These are not permanent actions. And so ultimately, what we want to see is lasting stability between Israel and Israel and Syria. And that means we support all sides upholding the 1974 disengagement agreement.
Do you feel that they're holding up that disengagement agreement?
Well, look, this is a temporary action that they have taken in response to actions by the Syrian military to withdraw from that area. Now, what we want to see ultimately is that agreement fully upheld, and we will watch to see that Israel does that. They have said that this is a temporary action, and we're going to be watching what steps they take in the coming weeks.
It's concerned about Israel's actions like occupation of Golan Heights.
Going back to U.S. engagement with some of these Syrian rebel groups, yesterday a senior administration official talking to reporters said U.S. is in touch with some of them. Can you explain which ones? And given that HTS is designated and there's a bounty on Jolani's head, is that a 100% impediment for you guys to even indirectly engage with them, or not really?
So as a legal matter, no, it is not. We do have the ability to engage with organizations that have been designated. You might remember that the previous administration engaged with the Taliban while it was a designated terrorist organization and struck an agreement to withdraw from Afghanistan with the Taliban while the Taliban was a designated terrorist organization. So we do have the ability, when it is in our interest legally, to communicate with a designated terrorist organization. There are things you can't do under the law, but talking with people is not one of them. When it comes to engagement with groups on the ground in Syria, so we have a number of ways of communicating, sometimes directly with various groups, sometimes with intermediaries, either inside Syria or outside Syria. We have been engaging in those conversations over the past few days. The Secretary himself has been engaged in conversations with countries that have influence inside Syria and will continue to do that, but I'm not going to get into the details of those conversations.